and a very warm welcome to everyone who is viewing our episode today. I'm Khushbu Soni. I am your host for the broadcast and the editor-chief at CIO News. This is our exclusive fireside chat powered by Sophos on the topic of managed detection response around cybersecurity. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. I am very excited to invite our guest for today. We have Mr. Debashis Roy, the Vice President and CIO at CESC Limited. Mr. Roy has 4 decades of experience in the IT industry, worked with companies such as Spencer's Retail, Philips Carbon Black Limited, Steel Authority of India, and carries great expertise and skills in the areas of cybersecurity, digital transformation, and next generation technology. Sir, it is an absolute pleasure to have you today, and we really look forward to learning from your experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Khushbu, and good afternoon to all my viewers. Yeah, as you heard, Khushbu said in her introduction that I am the Vice President IT and CIO of CSC. Now, CSC is a private sector power utility which is engaged in the business of generation and distribution of electricity to over 35 lakh consumers in the city of Calcutta. So that's our basic business model. And being into generation and distribution, it entails both the classical IT and OT, a lot of OT.
Right.
And so in the context of cybersecurity, we are having sleepless nights, as you know, because cyber attacks and threats are increasing at an alarming rate. So every day, you open the newspapers, you get to see some organization getting hacked or, ransomware and things like that. So we also, have a security strategy in place. So, answering the first question that you had, with the dynamic market changes, how are you reassessing the security strategy for your organization? Now, as we all know, security is not a destination. It is a journey. So we at CSC, we are continuously reviewing the cybersecurity strategy on an ongoing basis. So essentially, the CSC management monitors and reviews cybersecurity strategy based on basically 4 pillars. One is, cybersecurity monitoring that happens. Then the compliance requirements by the Ministry of Power. Since we come directly under the Ministry of Power, there are certain compliance and regulatory requirements from a cybersecurity perspective. Then, of course, the risk assessment and then the cyber threat landscape. So just to give you an idea of our IT/OT ecosystem in CSC, we have nearly 3,000 end users connected to our corporate network. And incidentally, the corporate network is our own captive high-speed optical fiber network, connecting over 220 locations within the city of Calcutta. We have our own state-of-the-art corporate data center where multiple internet service provider lines get terminated. And we have a separate dedicated OT network. So these 2 networks are separated. But then, as you know, business demands handshaking of both these networks, IT/OT. So security becomes a major concern here. So, we have taken the necessary steps and measures, firewalls, etc., in segregating these 2 networks. So this is to answer the first question. So that was the first question. The second question was, what were the challenges you had faced during the last 2 years in terms of enabling secured work from home environment, right? And also managing the endpoint protection. How did you overcome these challenges?
Correct.
Yeah, so it was a major challenge. In fact, as we all know, the global COVID-19 pandemic completely disrupted our day-to-day operations.
Right.
And being a power utility and in the essential services, we had to kind of sustain our business operations on a round-the-clock basis.
Okay.
So even right throughout the pandemic period, and also during the complete lockdown phase, if you
Right.
recall, the country was under complete lockdown.
Right.
So even during that phase, our engineers had to go to office. I mean, to generate electricity, which is an essential supply.
Correct.
So our IT systems had to be sustained also.
Right.
So just to give you an idea, in the pre-COVID period, we just had a handful of VPN users, remote VPN users.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to quickly scale up to over 500 remote VPN users overnight.
Okay.
Because once the complete lockdown was declared,
Correct.
so we had to, quickly react to the situation.
Right.
And I must say our IT infra and security team did a great job. They rose to the occasion, and practically overnight,
Yeah.
we provided remote VPN connectivity to 500 of our end users.
Okay.
But then, from a cybersecurity perspective, we were aware that we were exposing our corporate network to these remote end users.
Right.
So we before giving them connectivity, there were certain things we ensured. So one was the endpoint devices that would connect to our corporate network from homes or wherever outside. They were completely sanitized.
Okay.
Completely sanitized in terms of the operating system hardening, and proper antivirus was loaded, applying the latest security patches. So complete sanitization of these endpoint devices.
Okay.
Then over and above our normal authorization process, which happens, at our data center at this thing, what we introduced was a second layer of security authorization in the form of multi-factor authorization.
Okay.
So which means, the end user was, we generated a random OTP, which was sent to the registered mobile number of the end user. So he had to key in that OTP, and only then he was provided access. So
Okay.
over and above the normal authorization process, we had the second layer, which is the multi-factor authorization. Parallelly, what we did was a lot of emphasis was placed on cybersecurity awareness and training. So our employees were briefed on, the best practices and procurement. So regarding cyber-related issues, we kind of briefed them, and also several phishing campaigns we had conducted on a regular basis. So this was also an important element of this whole process, because our end users had to be educated, through training and awareness program. And of course, there was a regular review of our cybersecurity risk exposure, particularly to ascertain whether the existing controls are robust enough, which includes the IT/OT security audit by a cert-in empaneled auditor.
Right.
So this kind of more or less addresses your second question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sorry. So I also wanted to, get some perspective from Rajeev as well, because he's also been interacting with a lot of government entities across pan India, right? And it would be fantastic, Rajeev, if you can also share, your learnings while you've interacted with, leadership personas from other organizations, government entities.
Yeah, so Mr. Debashis has, mentioned the right things. So I've been interacting with the most of the CIOs and the government officials as well, who are the part of the security team or the IT team. So the challenges are same. Okay, so all the challenges are same. But in case of the government, they are not so dynamic. The decision making, the policies, it takes time.
Right.
But as far as CIOs or private sector is concerned, exactly the same. They have also gone through the same phase and implemented like the same Mr. Debashis has mentioned.
Right.
On top of it, if you see in the VPN, I mean, as the end home users are increasing, work from home, not
Yeah.
only the pandemic, now the trend is, hybrid culture, right? Hybrid workforce, right? So 2 days in office or 3 days in office, rest, working from home. In that case, also, we need to have a robust security infrastructure, because every home is now in a branch office kind of. Okay. So earlier we used to have a branch office 15 or 20 across the country. Now each and every user has in the home is a kind of branch office. So you need to have a similar kind of security, like he already mentioned, the sanitization, then VPN security, then two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. These all are the necessary things, and most of the companies, most of the corporates, they are implementing like the same.
Right.
So now the new technology which is coming up, like ZTNA, which actually eases that process of, on the security on the VPN on the remote users. So most of the companies are adopting that kind of a new technology as well in their infrastructure.
Sure, sure. Great. Thanks, Raji, for sharing us insight from the other entities as well. Mr.
But one
Debashis,
point I would just want to
yes.
mention, since Mr. Debashis has mentioned certain, okay, so the certain has now come up with the new guidelines where a company or any, whether it's a corporate or maybe the government entity, they have to inform any cyber attack or anything happens in their organization.
Correct.
Within 90 days or 60 days, 90 days, I guess, right? So I'm not sure now. Yes, big enterprises, obviously they have their team, IT security team, or maybe a good infrastructure on the manpower, in fact. But I'm not sure how the mid-sized companies or the companies who are not so much of workforce or not so much of have cyber security expert in their organization, how they are going to report those incidents in that time frame of which certain has defined. So that's a major challenge which is going to come up.
That is true. That's true. So your thought on that?
Yeah, I think I'm totally agree with what Rajeev said. The challenges, whether it's in government or in the private sector, they're the same when it comes to security. Incidentally, while most of the power utilities are in government, our company is a private sector. We are in the private sector. So CSC is a private sector power utility. There are very few private sector power utilities in the country. One is Ahmedabad Electric, one is Tata Power, CSC. So while more than 90% of the power utilities in this country are under the government banner. So yes, I think, Rajiv's made a valid point. The certain requirement is you are supposed to report all cyber security related incidents within a stipulated time frame.
Right.
So while we are doing it, we are a large organization. We have a separate IT infra and security vertical. So we are, complying with all the requirements of both the Ministry of Power and certain requirements. But yes, maybe, it'll be a major challenge for the small and medium enterprises.
Correct.
But even in the large enterprises also, sir, there is a scarcity of the cybersecurity expert, because to report those incidents, and a lot of monitoring, as you mentioned, that one of the pillar, that monitoring, continuous monitoring, 24/7, SOC kind of solutions which are required for any company to report those kind of incidents. So I have meeting many of the CIOs in the enterprise also, they are not prepared for that. They don't have a 24/7 kind of monitoring system, especially on the security.
No, you're absolutely right, Rajeev. I mean, security now, it's a 24/7 issue.
Yes.
And one really never knows from where the attack is going to take place from. So
true.
So coming back to Khushbu's questions,
yes,
the third one, was organizations are now moving rapidly to digital.
Right.
There is strict compliance brought in by the regulatory for data. How are you currently managing security for digital transactions?
Right.
Yeah, see, CSC's digitalization journey, basically revolved around two frameworks. One was on the SMAC framework, which, I'm sure some of you are aware of what the SMAC framework was. S in that SMAC stands for social media, that is, M for mobility, A for analytics, and C for cloud. So that's the SMAC framework. And the other was on the Industry 4.0 technologies.
Right.
Now, during this entire transition period, while this transformation was taking place in CSC, we ensured the maximum degree, the emphasis was on privacy of data residing in the IT systems, in all our IT systems, the customers' data, because, we had the entire 35 lakh consumers, customers' data. Right. So data privacy, protecting that data, there's a lot of emphasis on that from a security perspective and also from a compliance perspective. So CSC is also in the process of getting, this PCI DSS certified by 2023. So I think we were one of the early movers in this digital journey. Way back in 2013, there was, I think, a major news item about CSC, and also I think CIO News covered it in 2013. It was a big article as to how CSC went about its digital journey based on the SMAC framework. That was in 2013. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So coming to the next question is, how are you currently managing your cloud security? See, again, being a power utility, most of our mission critical IT applications reside on-prem, But having said that, very recently, it's just been maybe about a year or year and a half ago, that we have started migrating some of the less important applications onto the cloud.
Okay.
So our cloud strategy is very selective. Like I said, the mission critical applications like billing, payments, etc., are still, it's still on-prem. But since the cloud is also maturing, it's, I think it was way back in 2006, Amazon had launched its cloud services. So it's now nearly 20 plus years.
Right.
So I think Rajeev will be able to throw some light on this. I'm sure these cloud service providers have strengthened their security systems so that customers like us feel more secure. But being in the power utility, we are a little conservative. We haven't, adopted the cloud as yet for our mission critical applications.
Okay.
So I would love to hear from Rajeev. What is the status of cloud security now?
So, Debashis sir, as far as the cloud security is concerned, it is still, although it's like we always give an example, of the cloud security, like the players like AWS or Azure, any all service provider. It's like a society, right? So society, there are flats. So there is a security which is there provided from RWA or maybe the society builder on the gates, right? But for your flat security, for your flats, you have to take care of. So for applications which are running, the server, the instances which are running on those servers, actually the customer is responsible to take care of that security. So that is why we see a lot of interaction with the CIOs who are whose companies are hosted their applications, critical applications on the cloud. They are taking that cloud security, cloud firewall, cloud server protections, these kind of technologies. And plus, one more thing, there is a management of the security posture over the cloud. So there are companies have a different kind. So some companies have a AWS, Azure, different service provider in a same company. So to manage those cloud infrastructure, to see the monitoring of those cloud infrastructure, they are looking for some solutions. So which take care of overall monitoring of their cloud instances, cloud infra. also the security posture. So these kind of trend I'm seeing in the last 2 years from most of the enterprises.
Yeah, basically, there are 3 blocks to it, the way I see it.
Yeah.
One is the end users that would be connecting to the cloud from our organization.
Right.
The other is the cloud per se. Your data is going to reside on their platform, their infrastructure as a service. And the third piece is the connectivity, the pipe, the internet pipe connecting your premise with the cloud. Now, security of the pipe and the security of the cloud is basically not in your control, the customer. Exactly. Whereas all the assets and devices that are connecting with the cloud, that responsibility rests with the customer. So I was asking you mainly from the other 2 perspectives, the pipe and the cloud. So I understand these cloud service providers, mainly, these multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, they have invested a lot on security over the years. So I take it that it is very secure, their environment, and actually, the last mile encryption and things like that. So
not exactly, it is not. If you see their contract, okay, so if you go to the contracts which it is AWS or these kind of companies are giving, they are not taking care of the security of the inside your instances, inside of application. Okay, so they are saying that overall data center or overall they are securing, but you have to take the responsibility of your flat on your own. So that's the thing
of that infrastructure which is residing on the cloud. Yes, your infrastructure on the cloud.
Yes.
No, like I said, which is why we have been very conservative on adopting cloud for our mission critical applications, being in the power utility. And plus, there are some government regulations also, like you can't take the SCADA, GIS. These are power utility centric applications. And these are very, very important and mission critical applications insofar as a distribution company is concerned. The distribution SCADA, the transmission SCADA, the geographical information system. So those, even if you want to, you cannot take it to the cloud. Right. That's the kind of regulation. So therefore, I think maybe over the years, other applications we will migrate. Because that's the trend I see nowadays.
But ultimately, going down the line, what I'm seeing is this cloud adoption is increasing day by day. It's an exponential growth in the last 5 years. You see. And most of the companies, as per the government regulation, also there are data centers which are listed in the government, 12 or 13 data centers where you can host your application. The clause is that your data should not reside inside the country. Your data reside in the country for the government, BFSI and other things.
Yeah, so that's an RBI regulation.
Yeah, that's an RBI regulation. And most of the government organization also following the same thing. They have listed the panel some 12 or 13 data centers, and they have allowed to host the application on those set of data centers. So that is why most of the security company like us, they are also having opening their data center inside India. Okay, like we recently launched our data center last year for those set of customer, the government and the BFSI.
Okay.
So fulfill that clause. So this kind of adoption which is going on, which is all driven by the end user.
That's right.
That's a requirement because scalability is the main concern, right? You have rightly mentioned in the beginning that over the night you have increased from handful of VPN user to 500 VPN users. So similarly, it is happening with the companies, especially the startups or they're looking exponential growth in next 1 year or 6 months. Even they don't know how much employee they are going to hire in next 6 months, depending upon the orders which they are getting, or depending on their clients. If their client want to increase the seats, like 100 seats or 200 seats within a week, so it's very difficult, to increase on their own. So ultimately, they have to go on the cloud for that scalability.
That's right. Khushbu, coming to your last question, I guess.
Yes.
Which is, why is zero trust emerging as a new cybersecurity paradigm?
Right.
Now, yes, zero trust, in fact, is a new cybersecurity concept for business and enterprises. And the philosophy behind zero trust is never trust anyone.
Exactly.
Always verify. That's the underlying philosophy of zero trust.
Correct.
Which is never trust anyone, always verify. So the CSC's zero trust architecture, has been built on the following tenets. One is proper segmentation of the network. That was one. Then enhanced identity asset management. Third was implementation of least privileges at the firewall level. And log and analysis of security events, the analytics part of. So these are the 4 tenets on which our, this zero trust architecture has been built. Okay. So, and so this, since technology is dynamic and it's evolving, so we have embraced this principle of zero trust based on technologies like AI and ML. And also, this UBA, which we talk about, which is user entity behavior and analytics. Then for our endpoint, we are deploying EDR and XDRs, which is the extension detection response. And all. So we also have a full-fledged SOC, which is the Security Operations Center. And these components are integrated with the SIEM, which is the Security Information Event Management, and the SOAR, which is the Security Orchestration Automation Response. So these are the tools that have been deployed in CSC, which is helping us to monitor, all the logs, all the threats, all the malware on a 24/7 basis. The whole idea is to secure, our entire IT/OT landscape from possible cyber threats and attacks.
Awesome.
So this is kind of sums up all your questions.
Absolutely, it does. It does. Great. I think it was very well captured, and I think great responses, sir. Rajeev, any thoughts from your side before we end today's discussion?
It's okay. I think we have discussed a lot of points, and that is why, on zero trust, a lot of companies now adopting ZTNA, which is the latest technology, which has grown in the last 2 to 3 years. For the faster, which is actually replacing to the traditional VPN.
Right. Great. I'm going to go off recording. Thank you so much once again for joining on this platform and sharing all your valuable insights, Mr. Roy and Rajeev.
Thank you so much, Khushbu. Thanks, sir. Thanks.